ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
All right, we're ready to go. Welcome in. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Talking a little wrestling right before the show began with our Rock PD, Eric, over on the X. And I was kind of getting him updated on all the stuff happening. The Raw after WrestleMania, and boy, that was crazy today. So if you were watching the wrestlings last night, you got a lot to process. And, of course, we had a busy night last night as well. NBA playoffs going on, NHL going on. So we'll try to get into all of that with you, but I want to start the show with the text line. We do that every day. It's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So we'll get that rolling here in just a moment. There's a lot to get into today. I think the first thing you want to know is how softball doing right now. Well, game one is over, and the Herd beat Radford 5-1. So take that, Radford. Game two coming up. It's going to be 5:15, I believe, is what the social media has put out just a few minutes ago. So if you're on your way to game two, you got a few minutes. If you didn't get a chance to go to game one, good showing today from softball. So we'll keep you updated on game two. Baseball is in action. Marshall taking on Morehead State. That's coming up tonight, 6 o'clock at Jack Cook Field. So you could take in a little softball and then maybe wander on over and take in a little baseball. Sounds like a perfect way to spend a few hours over at Marshall. Kentucky is hosting number 19 Louisville tonight at 6:30, so that one should be a good one. Number 17 West Virginia is at Penn State tonight at 6 o'clock. Major League Baseball, the Pirates had Monday off, and the Pirates didn't lose on Monday, so it was a good day for the Pirates, opening up a series in Anaheim, California against the Los Angeles Angels. They have got the first pitch set for 9:38. We go on the air a little sooner than that, 9:10, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Also, the Marlins got the better of the Reds 6-3. Game two of the series tonight, 6:40 in Miami. And then the Guardians beat the Yankees 6-4. Game two of that series starting tonight, 6:10 in Cleveland. So how's everyone's day going so far? There's a lot I want to get into. Transfer portal is probably one of the things that we've got to talk about for basketball, because yesterday, if you weren't with us, I had Tyler Kennett on from HD Media, and Tyler has taken over the beat for covering the Herd. And Tyler and I were talking a little bit about the transfer portal, talking about specifically some guys that are coming back, and we had said, hey, Dezane Mingo, that's a good hold. Marshall's able to retain and keep more of its players. Of course, in the transfer portal, the Herd picked up in basketball Wilson Dubinsky, South Carolina State guard. He was all MEAC tourney. The thing that impressed me about him, he shoots almost 45% from three. He's almost a double-digit scorer. He's scoring over 8 a contest, and I'm hoping that if Coach Jackson can really do his magic, you can get him at the double digits. But I like that number from the three-point line. Gives him a little versatility. So we were optimistic about basketball. Coach Jackson doing a really good job going in the portal, identifying and finding players, and I think he's going to have to do that as well, because you lose Dezane Mingo. The word right now, looking at some of the social media accounts that follow the transfer portal and you keep an eye on the comings and goings, Seton Hall seems to be interested. So is this a case of you show yourself, you get an opportunity. You come into Marshall University, you get an opportunity, you show that you've got the ability to play Division I, you have a really good season, and then that improves your value, and then you can go out in the open market and probably find a better name, image, and likeness deal, get a little bit more money, maybe a better situation as well, because if you're coming to Marshall, I don't think you can expect really high-paid NIL opportunities. That's just the nature of where you're at right now on the food chain. It's not that Marshall's not a great place to get an education, or it's not that Marshall doesn't have great fans. It's not that it's a great experience. But at the end of the day, you're going to college to better yourself. That seems to be the overall thought is I go to college, go to a university, I learn, I gain skills, I improve myself so I have more value in the job market. And the one thing that we always loved about college athletics was, it wasn't like the pros. Doing it for the love of the game. It meant something. You put that Marshall jersey on, put that Herd jersey on, meant something. You could substitute that for any school. You're a Kentucky fan. You put that Kentucky jersey on, that means something. You're representing the state, Kentucky. You're representing a lot with that jersey on. Now it's just like, okay, this is my team this year. Take that off. This is my team next year. Going where the best opportunities are. And so if you're of a certain generation, you're a certain age, has this ruined college athletics for you? At what age are you now, and what's your mindset? This is terrible. This has ruined it. You can't get into players. You can't invest in them anymore. You show up and you see a guy there and you start to be a fan, and then next season they're not there. I know more so for basketball than football because there's not that many players on the team. So you get to identify with the basketball players probably more. Maybe that's not accurate for you, but I would think you identify with basketball players more because you don't have that many of them compared to an entire roster of football players where some of you have said, I don't know who these people are that are entering the transfer portal. Who are these people? Did I miss something? That's kind of the vibe I've been getting off of the transfer portal for football. With basketball, though, you don't miss this. So when you see that Dezane Mingo is entering the transfer portal, you know it real quick because we all watched Dezane Mingo. He got a lot of playing time. He got better as he progressed, and he was really a vital part of the Thundering Herd. I was hoping that he would come back. Coach Jackson could come in and fill a few more spots here or there, fill needs, and make another run. That Marshall basketball team, a little bit more experience, maybe a piece or two. There's nothing that says this basketball team can't contend for a Sun Belt title, or at least that's as far as I'm thinking, that this team is close, and it was really good toward the end as well. So that's the big one today for Herd fans is the transfer portal giveth and it taketh away, and it taketh away Dezane Mingo. Now, if you're also of a certain generation and you're listening to this show, if you're younger, is this just the norm for you now? Is this something that, or are we at least a generation after where those kids grow up and this is just the norm? You're rooting for the team Marshall and you're just going in and you're replacing pieces every year. Players come, players go. You're really not behind the players. It's just like, hey, can Marshall get better? When we were growing up, we had our favorite players because they were with us for several years. There are a lot of you that I would say right now your quarterback is Chad Pennington, or your wide receiver, or go back a little way, your wide receiver is Troy Brown. My quarterback, because I was at Marshall when he was there, was Michael Payton. He was my quarterback, because of the fact that he was able to lead the Herd to its first national championship, 1AA level, but still Herd's first championship. So, he was my quarterback, and, Chad Pennington is a lot of people's quarterback. Randy Moss is your wide receiver. Ahmed Bradshaw is your running back. Troy Brown might be your wide receiver. And now, in a day and age where the transfer portal makes it easy, by the way, it's closing soon. Transfer portal closes at midnight for basketball, tomorrow for women, and Friday for football. So we got a few more days. So if you want to transfer, you got to get in the portal before the deadline. So we might see some more basketball portal announcements, if not tonight, at least tomorrow, making it official that players are in the basketball transfer portal. Same thing for women. We haven't seen too much across the board for women. Football, that's where a lot of the action's been going on. But if you're of a younger generation now, do you look at this as like, hey, we're going to get better. Transfer portal's opening up. Great. Who can we get? Or are you of that age, and maybe it's not generational. Maybe I'm completely coming at this wrong, where you're good with this. Like, it was great back in the day. Players would stay 3-4 years and, You get to know them now. I just want wins. Win that championship every year. Doesn't matter who's on the team. Win that championship. They're going to be gone next year. Bring me a championship. So we'll get into all of that with you. Our text line this hour is going to be 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. NFL Draft is coming up as well. Hey, what do you think of the possibility? We really haven't got too much into this, but could you see possibly two Marshall football players ending up with the Cincinnati Bengals? Could Mike Green be the target for the Bengals? And could J.J. Roberts maybe a third rounder? Day 3 probably is more of an accurate description there. Yeah, maybe he goes in the third round. I don't know if he's going to go low, but he could be a third rounder. He could be a day 3 prospect. But could you see the Cincinnati Bengals picking up both of these guys, or at least targeting one of them? That would make me happy as a Bengals fan. And, of course, as a brief reminder, we'll have all those games all season long right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. All right, we'll get our text line going. And, again, let me give that to you. It's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Now that you've got the number, let's get it going. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talkline, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Our text line is open this hour at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I've also been keeping an eye on the Sun Belt Conference Men's Championship. We've got stroke play going on right now. And looking at the team leaderboard, Marshall is 13th out of 14th, plus 18 today. Now, looking at the player leaderboard, it looked good yesterday, but day 2 seems to have taken its toll a little bit on the Thundering Herd. The first Herd player to show up is in 22nd, tied with several golfers, J.F. Aber. He is +1. And then at 31st is Ryan Bilby, +2. Bilby was -4 yesterday, if I saw the standings correctly. So it is not good for the Thundering Herd right now, 11th. Cameron Jarvis is 51st in the leaderboard. So that's where we're at right now, Sun Belt Conference Men's Championship going on. The text line wide open. We asked you earlier today, is it a generational thing with fans? That younger fans are just going to not know what it was like to have like a player stick around 4 or 5 years? Or will a younger generation of fans just be in tune with what's going on with the transfer portal because you got the ability just to go where you want to go and you can move around and you have name, image, and likeness, and you're rooting for Marshall. You're not rooting for a specific player. If the player can help you, great. If the player moves on, you're done with that player. Because after all, we're going to get to the point where it's just going to be commonplace. Or do you really want to see college football maybe clamp down a little bit on how this transfer portal works and see a little bit more of a process where you just can't go from school to school to school, and maybe you try to put limits on that? Can you put limits on that, or at least change when the transfer portal opens and closes to try to deter some of this? Well, I'm not happy here. I'm leaving for a better opportunity, or I'm leaving because I'm getting a better name, image, and likeness opportunity elsewhere. If you regulate that a little bit more, and money's going to play a big part of all of this. Something I came across earlier today as I was doing a little research, seeing what was happening. I saw where UTEP has disbanded women's tennis, and it's because just the operational cost of it. It's becoming more expensive to operate some of these sports, and UTEP made the decision to eliminate women's tennis, going to redirect those resources elsewhere. It's not we're trying to save money, it's we're trying to redirect resources to other sports that have a little bit more profitability maybe, or you're more competitive in, or you're trying to be more competitive in, and that's going to open up, according to them, more opportunities actually for student athletes, female student athletes, because you're probably going to be able to cover more scholarships, and you kind of got to rob Peter to pay Paul, if you've heard that phrase before. Could you see that happening at Marshall University eventually when we get to the point where the finances look crazy and you want to be competitive in several areas? Where would you go? What sport would you eliminate? And I'm not asking you to pick because we're going to, but right now with the men's teams, baseball's not going anywhere. The new stadium, not going anywhere. And then you have basketball, that's never going to go anywhere. And you're actually expanding with your men's sports. You've got track and field, cross country. Okay, you can handle those. Football, that's never going anywhere. Soccer, you're a national champion, and that's not going anywhere. And then golf. How much does it really cost to run a golf program? I mean, I don't have the finances in front of me, but then you look at women's teams and you have basketball. Well, that's not going anywhere. Golf, I'm going to say that's not going anywhere as well. Cross country, and this is a university and athletic department that is really focused on track and field cross country. So I don't think those programs are going anywhere. Then you have soccer. You're trying to make that into a championship sport. And so you continue to fund that. Softball's definitely not going anywhere. Too many people would just get up and riot. You've been successful in swimming and diving, so there's some value there. You've been really successful in tennis. So there, again, is the problem. Where do you pick if you're going to eliminate one? And then you look at volleyball. Is volleyball where you would cut? If you had to cut a program, would you cut volleyball? I mean, this is just out of curiosity. If athletic departments have got to start having these conversations, now Marshall's pretty lean when it comes to its sports teams. So it's not as if Marshall has a sponsor or sponsored every single sport. And if you look at Sunbelt, all the sports that are sponsored, in reality, Marshall could add teams. I know we're talking about beach volleyball. Remember, that came up. Sunbelt has beach volleyball. And so if you look at what you could do to add, you could possibly add a sport there. But the Sunbelt sponsors baseball, basketball, cross country, football, golf, soccer, tennis, both men's and women's, indoor and outdoor track and field, beach volleyball, swimming and diving. So there's not men's volleyball, there's women's volleyball. You've got indoor and outdoor track and field. That's not going anywhere. Tennis isn't going anywhere. So Marshall pretty much has everything going that it can. You have beach volleyball that could be added to the athletic department. Would you see in Marshall's future adding instead of subtracting? Could Marshall manage the finances where UTEP couldn't? And you got to think out loud as well. You got to say the quiet part out loud. That UTEP, it probably costs a lot of money geographically. The way these conferences are aligned right now, geographically, it probably costs a pretty penny to fund and field a tennis program. And so if you're looking to divert those resources elsewhere, you're probably going to look and say, what's the most expensive sport that we can do without? And you look at UTEP and you go, okay, it's probably going to be tennis. And hopefully that doesn't happen for Marshall. And I mean, West Virginia doesn't have softball. Marshall has softball. WVU doesn't have softball. Again, Sunbelt sponsors softball. Marshall's been very successful in softball, and it's not going anywhere. There are several sports that you can look at and you can go, well, that one's not safe, but I don't know where you would pick and choose. If you're having to have this discussion in the future of what sport can you do without? Do you look at your sports logically and go, okay, which one costs us the most and what's the return on it? I mean, volleyball, you have an arena, so it's not facilities there. I think Marshall's at that point where, it's pretty lean right now when it comes to its sports. But is this going to be conversations that athletic departments have across the country in the future? When you're looking at, okay, what brings people in? Because we're getting to the point where, is this really for the student athlete, the experience? No, this is about wins and losses. I mean, this is a pro model just about here. Texture says, Paul, I don't think you can force a person to stay somewhere, but I do think you can limit or have regulations on what can be offered to transfers. In real life, you can't force me to stay at my job if I'm not happy. No, you can't force a person to stay at their job if they're not happy. And I appreciate that text because that opens up something. But I can force that person not to work in that field for a while. There are non-competes, and I can have binding contracts where you can't work in that field at a competitor for X amount of time. Happened to me. I couldn't work, and I don't like non-competes, so I'm not in favor of them. But it did happen to me. Like, you cannot work. You can't go here. Could conferences come together and go, okay, If players are going to transfer out, that's fine, but you cannot accept a player that is coming directly from another Sun Belt school and you just get all the universities to agree, because it works both ways. I can't force you to stay, but other schools, you could possibly work into the bylaws. Okay, player A is leaving. Sun Belt schools can't touch him. What would that have done to Southern Miss and Coach Huff? Coach Huff left, didn't want to be here anymore, or did and didn't get the deal he wanted. Whatever the case may be, he's out. Players are leaving. It's a mass exodus, and a lot of them end up at Southern Miss. Now, if there was something in place that said you can leave, that's great, but you're going to have a hard time getting picked up at least Sun Belt schools. And this is a rare case where you have a Sun Belt coach leave one school and go directly to another, and a lot of players go with him. Could you work that into an agreement or just something that protects the schools here? Because schools don't have to take you. Now, they could scoff at that. Like, look, no, transfer portal's wide open. There's a good player from Marshall, and I can get him, and I'm Southern Miss. I'm going to go get him. I think there's got to be some balance here. Absolutely needs some regulation. But at the same time, student athletes should have the opportunity to find the best opportunity, and that might not benefit the school that player's leaving. But the way this thing is written right now and the way this thing is formatted, does anyone care? Players don't. Thanks for my time here. I was blessed to be here, but I'm putting myself in the transfer portal. I bet I could get ChatGPT to write almost 90% of what student athletes write on their Twitter, their social media accounts when they announce that they're available and they're going into the transfer portal. I might have to do that. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That was a good question. That was a good text, by the way. I appreciate that. You're right. You can't force anyone. Better make me happy. Keep me happy, and I'll stay and work for you, or I'll stay and play for you. Or if I'm happy here, there's not that big of a chance of me leaving if I'm happy here. So it comes down to what can you do to keep the student athlete happy. More coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Welcome back. It's the Tuesday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've been talking a lot about the transfer portal. Of course, we found out yesterday, almost immediately after we got off the air, that Dezane Mingo was in the portal. Now, for a lot of fans, you've expressed not just yesterday and today, but over the last few months that you're kind of losing interest in this. College athletics is just not the same. You're losing interest in this. You can't really get invested in it anymore. Players always change. And for some of you, that might be fine because it's just part of what it's been about as you're growing up. If you're a younger person, maybe this is the norm, or, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you like it the old way too. But at the same time, college athletics has become more of a profession. I'm a college athlete. I'm not a student athlete. Now, that still needs to be part of this. After all, if we're not factoring in the student portion of this equation, then just create semi-pro teams. We'll just have semi-pro teams. We'll have Marshall semi-pro. You get paid, you play on Saturdays, everybody loves it, but let's just get rid of the student portion of this. You're in a club now. You're in a junior team. You're getting ready for the Nationals or the National League or the Major League or the NFL. It's like Canadian junior hockey or the junior system in so many sports here. Minor league. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. We've developed for so many years, and it's spilled over to the other sports. We have developed college athletics into the minor league system for the National Football League. The NFL has become what it is based off the fact that we have this passion for football, and college athletics has been the perfect feeder system into the National Football League. I mean, baseball, we got a little bit more of a slow burn. Hockey, a little bit more of a slow burn. Other sports outside of basketball, it's handled differently. But the big money sport is football, then basketball, and then everything else. Is it truly creating lack of interest for you? Has your interest waned on this because of the transfer portal? Or is this just going to be the new norm? What's the team going to look like this year? Here we got a lot of kids. Transfer portal news is going to be big. Recruiting websites are going to probably figure this out, if not already, how to even capitalize more on this. Sports agents now no longer you'd have to worry about going out and recruiting as much as you're going to have to deal with portals and clearinghouses. Hey, I represent this student athlete. What do you got for us? You have an interest. We have an interest. What do you got for us? What can you offer us? What's my deal going to be? 304-396-TALK is our text line. 304-396-8255. That's the number to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And at the same time, we're all excited because Mike Green, J.J. Roberts, two guys that decided to finish it out at Marshall, could be drafted, and there's a lot of talk that maybe one or both could be with the Cincinnati Bengals. I've seen some projections that have Mike Green as a target for the Bengals, and I see some other projections that have J.J. Roberts as a target for the Bengals. Green's probably day one. I think Roberts, he could be day 3. He could be third round maybe. He could possibly be one of those that you pick up. It's a great value pick, and he's going to pay dividends for the life of his career. But Mike Green definitely could be an interesting target for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have been talking defense. You got to win championships with defense. You can score, but can you stop the other team from scoring on you is the real testament of a good team these days. You have to be able to protect your quarterback, but you also have to be able to protect the lead. And so could Mike Green be a Bengal? And at that point then, how many of you that are not Bengals fans are already going to jump on that Bengals bandwagon with me? Come on. I got room. We'll take you with us. Always welcoming new fans. We got you. You want to jump on? Come on. Come on board right now. We'll take you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll start a chapter. We'll start a Bengals chapter of fans. I know you're out there. Sometimes you just don't come out because, well, you've got that Pittsburgh Steelers friend that kind of makes you feel shame because, well, they've been really good for a long time and all those Super Bowls they have won, and they haven't won one in a long time, but that's beside the point. Final segment coming up. We're having a good time here today on this Tuesday edition, and we want to invite you as well. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
Welcome back to our Tuesday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. A few minutes open there. Get your comments in for the rest of the show. We've got baseball action coming up tonight. The Pirates on the West Coast. We've got it for you, 9:10, our airtime. Taking on the Angels right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm going to try to keep an eye on that one. That's a late game. I'll keep an eye on that one, of course. I'll watch a little bit of the Reds, but I'm going to focus a little bit probably more on hockey tonight, obviously. Of course, we've got baseball action, all of that tonight. Softball, we're keeping an eye on that one as well. And going into the bottom of the third, no score between Marshall and Radford. Marshall wins the previous game 5-1, and then baseball is getting set to go, and that's going to start in about 5-10 minutes or so over at Jack Hook Field. Peyton Jackson's going to be on the mound for the Thundering Herd. So should be a good night. Weather's looking like it's going to hold, so we're going to get a lot of baseball in tonight over at Jack and the Dot. And we'll be back tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Until then, have a great night, everyone.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.